Welcome back, WNST, and we are sending all of our dispatches down to Sarasota via the internet. The Orioles are playing baseball, but can they win? And this isn't a local angle. This is a national guy who's covered baseball and the business of baseball for a couple of decades. He's at Forbes. You can follow him out on Twitter at BizBall Maury. He is my personal host when I am in Portland, Oregon, anytime there. And he's one of our favorite rock and roll guitarists in the band Shoot the Thrill and AC/DC. By the way, Maury Brown of Forbes, this is my opportunity to promote that I am talking to the great Rob Halford next week of Judas Priest to kick off my non-sports sequiturs around here. And if at the end of this conversation you have some questions for Judas Priest and for Rob Halford, I'll be happy to pass those along. Maury, good day to you. Happy baseball season to all 3 or 4 of the places where they actually think they can win this year. The rest are just getting together to drive salaries down, right?
Well, I don't know if they're getting together to drive salaries down. I mean, it doesn't feel like the 1980s, Nestor. It really doesn't. Is it odd? Yeah, it's odd. Is there any smoking gun right now? Do we have an information bank? Not yet, and maybe some, good investigative reporter will maybe dig something up. But for right now, it doesn't feel like it, and I think that that's largely due to the fact that there's just a bunch of mechanisms in place around the labor deal that the players didn't exactly help themselves with when this new labor deal came about, and some of that I think is bearing out right now.
Well, this is where the conversation comes that they've never had a salary floor, right? They've never had a cap. They've never had a floor. They're real capitalists and real Americans in baseball. But the collusion thing. I mean, I go back to the '80s, and anytime you quote the great John Hellier in Lords of the Realm, you're singing my song. But I would say back in the '80s, when you say it doesn't feel like the '80s, in the '80s, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm naive, and I can go back to this, and I'm sure there's some with the Marvin Millers that would say I'm naive. I think there really were teams losing money on paper, not against sale and against the tax write-offs and all of those things that these owners love to do. But back in the '80s, there wasn't money just flowing everywhere. Now the money is literally fat bastard-esque, right? Like how much money these teams have, and guys like you and what you and the folks at Forbes do every year and sniffing out all of the money in baseball. And I've written tombs about Masson and what it's meant for Mr. Angelos and his heirs, how much money there is. This isn't about we don't have the money. This is we've got the money and you're not going to get it. Literally, because that's really where this is. No one's poor in Major League Baseball.
No one's poor, Nestor. I mean, I think that that's one of the things. And I look, when I say that, I look at a lot of the clubs that have cried, we don't have a balance. We don't have a level playing field here that we can go up against. And that's mostly, your Pirates or certainly Cincinnati, Tampa Bay, albeit both they and Oakland have, serious stadium problems. But look, I mean, in 2011, a bunch of clubs got their butts in the ringer because they were in violation of the debt rule. I mean, at the end of the day, the owners are largely, I think, competitive, most of them. So if you say a third of them were in debt violation because they were so far over their heads trying to basically win World Series, well, that's a third of the league that's really trying to maybe do the right thing, right? Albeit, ultimately at the detriment of themselves, potentially getting themselves into really serious problems. I mean, we ask ourselves, how in the world can the Dodgers or how in the world can the Texas Rangers get into bankruptcy or the Cubs get into bankruptcy? And sometimes these are the things that happen. But look, everybody should have a shot at this thing now. Now, the windows are shorter for some than others, but everybody should have a 5-year cycle. That's what the league wants to see. No team should not be in a case of being able to be competitive every 5 years. Now, there may be dramatic downturns to get there, right? You see the Cubs and the Astros, and that's what everybody's focusing on right now, right? The race to the bottom or tanking or any of this stuff. And I do wonder, if only to you as an Orioles fan, and I said, hey, Nestor, if Angelo said they were going to completely blow it up and they were going to suck for 4 years, but in the 5th year, they would either get to the World Series or win it, which would you take? Would you take where you are now, or would you take that model? And I dare say you and maybe a lot of other fans would say, you know what, I'll take that route. I'll do that.
The big thing with I don't trust this ownership here. I don't trust a lame duck owner or a lame duck manager, or a lame duck general manager, an 89-year-old senile owner who's been out to lunch and been hiding for. The problem with the Orioles is they haven't built up enough trust with me. And certainly with the Astros, they had no fans left. The Royals had no fans left when they were, burning down the mission. Now, the Yankees, a year and a half ago when they sold away in July 30th, and I know you and I were talking about that 18 months ago, the big sell-off, there was some faith and some confidence if you're a Yankees fan that, all right, we'll go along with it because these people know what they're doing. Come on, man. I mean, there's nobody in Baltimore that thinks Angelos or anything around here smells or looks like these people know what they're doing or that there's really a strategy here, because there's not.
Well, so listen, okay, maybe that was a bad example.
No, but I mean, you're a Seattle Mariner guy, right? I mean, you're out there. You make fun of them all the time. You get on the bus and go up to 3 hours up to Seattle to see games a couple times a year, and you're a bleeding heart. Do you have any confidence that they know what they're doing there? If they were saying, hey, we're going to go cheap, charge you full price for 4 years, and in year 5, bingo, presto, we're going to win the World Series. I mean, that's a promise you can't even make, Maury,
Yeah, but this is interesting, Nestor, and this is what's sad. The last time the winter meetings were in Dallas, and I straight to remember what it was, but it was a while ago. I was talking to Jeff Baker of the Seattle GI at the time, and he and I were talking about this commitment problem, and it was really the commitment problem was having their feet in two pools, right? They wouldn't blow it up, and they wouldn't go all in on free agents. So what you have happening is this like weird state, and the Orioles are oftentimes this way. You'll see like, okay, well, this guy didn't, this guy that we got as a free agent, he's basically right in his peak window, and our player development didn't line up with it. Or, we didn't go out and make some trades to go ahead and have something happen where what you ultimately have to have happen is, of course, everybody hitting on all cylinders, right? And that's very hard to do. The blowing it up thing obviously goes, all right, we're going to start from the ground zero. And that puts a lot of faith in your scouting and your player development. But that allows everybody to be on relatively the same development arc. And that allows you to go, hey, we can project that about right here, we should be in good shape. And if we need to plug some holes, we'll go out into free agency and do it there. And that, I think, is exactly the model that the league says that they like to see. They see it. There's a couple of reasons for it. One, you have a minor league system where you're supposed to be using them. It's not supposed to be some entertainment model. It's supposed to be designed to actually develop players within your own system. So it's supposed to be a healthy balance. We for years, of course, during the steroid era, we had it completely blocked the other way. Everybody said we can't go out into free agency because that's where the players are at that we need. Players were playing beyond their prime. And you had, of course, a lot of money being thrown at it. And I just do wonder right now, Nestor, I look at that Yu Darvish deal, and you ask yourself, a 31-year-old pitcher, you ask yourself how he's going to be doing at age 37 if that deal comes to complete fruition, if he doesn't opt out after year 2. Right? I mean, 6 years or 7 years for a pitcher.
Well, part of this is everybody's got a bad deal. And we got Chris Davis laying around here, right? We're just getting off the malaise of Ubaldo Jimenez. Up in Boston, they talk about Sandoval or Ramirez. It is what it is, right? I mean, that's part of this is the dead money, and everyone's trying to eliminate that. And look, in places like Tampa and the Oakland A's, they never had the money to waste, right? So and same thing with the Royals. But now when the Hosmers and the Moustakas come up, or if you're in Baltimore and the Machados and the Scopes come up, poor mouthing is really, it really breaks the faith and the trust in the fans. And look, dude, I had my faith in baseball and in Angelos broken a long, long time ago because I saw the inside of it and I got thrown out for reporting the inside of it. So I'm in a unique circumstance here. But I think the blind faith thing, that can work in some places. But, I think that's not the same as saying we're going to charge you full price and deliver half a Happy Meal. You know what I mean? They're still charging full price. That's the problem where I get off, man.
Yeah, and that's legitimate, right? I mean, really, it's fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me kind of thing. ultimately that speaks to the larger mindset of some of these clubs. And why I have a problem with, I pick on the Pirates. You're going to pick on the Orioles. I brought them up yesterday talking about it, so it's not like they get a free pass. But the Pirates are, I think, the best example of a club that probably was in a position 2 years ago to do something about it, got to the wild card a couple times and did nothing. And everybody was just like, what's going on here? And I'm like, I can't tell you what they're doing here, right? I mean, I can't really speak to what's going on, and now look what's happening with them. And it does make it hard for the fans. Look, ultimately...
Well, especially in a market where you have the Steelers and the Penguins who, win a lot and try hard a lot. And, and the juxtaposition of the Ravens and the Orioles here, people beat up the Ravens when the 4th and 12 goes over their head and, they don't make the playoffs on the last day of the season. You're not going to be so lucky to be thinking about the Orioles in real terms in September around here. I assure you that, And there are 15 places you can say that, Maury. I mean, there's a lot of places where they can't win this year.
Well, and this is if I sat down, smart people, right, and I'll put you in that, obviously in that group, and I said, how many really good baseball teams are there in the league? And we would struggle to come up with maybe
8.
maybe 5 or 6, 8 max, right? And then there would be a bunch
I'll give you 8. Let's name them, right? The Yankees are a good team. The Red Sox are a good team. Cleveland is a good team. Okay, so I'll give you all that. We can argue about the West in a minute as well. I'm going to give you Houston as a good team. I'll give you that. That's 4. In the National League, straight away, I mean, the Cubs are a good team. The Dodgers are a good team, right? I would even say Colorado and Arizona are good teams, I mean, I would say you have a chance to win if you're in any of those places. And obviously the Washington Nationals. So I just gave you 9.
Yep.
9 good teams. Now, you can throw Angels or Rain. There's a whole bunch of other, the Twins might be okay this year. I don't know, but there's 9 teams right there that I would, you give me $1 and give me a flyer on any of those teams to be playing meaningful baseball after September 15th. I'll take all 9 of those right now.
Yeah, and I would say that. I would say it as well. And there are teams like the Giants, right, who are absolutely horrible. They seem to be able to get it turned around pretty quick. Right now, if you look at all of those, with some exceptions, right, you either have the blow-it-up model in Houston or you have large revenue clubs that are able to get themselves spun around pretty quick. And for, I think, well, with the exception of, if you look at the Rockies, of course, are an interesting story because they're actually doing something. Or they're trying to. The Brewers are actually trying to do something. The Twins were really the fallback for Darvish, and they, there's nothing to say that they couldn't have wound up with it. But it does get into this. To me, if I go to a baseball game, I have to go watch the Mariners, right? And it's bad baseball. It's been historically bad, but there's always something good to watch. I can sit there and I can watch it and I can go, wow, every day, every game, there's something exciting that I can watch. Now, is it going to get to postseason good? Absolutely not. And this year, I think, is going to be, bad in Seattle. But that is largely the question that we have, I think, around all sports, right? Like, there's good, and then there's average, and then there's really bad. And the problem is that the really bad should never be really bad for any extended periods of time. Now, I'm going to give the Marlins a pass here, and I can hear people screaming right now. But look, Loria put them in a horrible, horrible financial position that was completely underwater, and that there was no way that it was sustainable and gave him no flexibility. Now, I don't like the idea that they've raised prices on some tickets in the midst of blowing things up. But there's a perfect example of somebody that has to get a club that has to get some stuff righted. The Astros were in a bit of a similar situation. I can give those passes. I can't sit there when there's a historical situation with current ownership. So we'll pick on Baltimore. We'll pick on Pittsburgh. I cannot give those clubs a pass because either there was a problem with your general manager, and if you've blown through multiple general managers, then you got to go, well, then it must be, higher up still. And it's your president or your owner. And those are the things that I sit there when I talk to Manfred. I go, how long should some of these teams be able to hang around down at the bottom? And it's 5 years. And I say, well, what are you going to say about those other ones? And, they're trying. But what's he going to say? Of course he's going to say that they're trying. But I think that it does get into this. The last collective bargaining agreement, Nestor, really tamped things down at the top. And it created a slotting system and hard caps around the international signings.
And the Orioles give their international money away. I mean, because Mr. Angelos would never drive a foreign car. That's the truth. I mean, that you can write that with that is the truth. Mr. Angelos would never drive a foreign car, so he's not really all that interested in foreign baseball players.
Well, that's a glaring hole if anybody does that kind of logic. But look, I mean, to me, it does get into one thing that I've brought this up now multiple times, and I wrote a column about it, and I think I need to resurface it again in the midst of this because I wrote it before we had this cold stove talk. If the players are really bent about money not going their way, well, maybe they should talk about having a cap system. And of course, Marvin Miller is screaming from the beyond right now at me because that idea is crazy. But the difference is that there's so much money flowing into the game now that is not going into the players' pockets, that a model similar to the NFL or the NBA has to be discussed as part of maybe a solution to this problem. They've got no way. There is nothing right now that can prevent the owners from doing what they're doing as long as they, are putting a winning product out there. Management did this release and said all of our clubs are interested in winning.
Dude, I saw that in your story, man, and I got to call BS. Owners own teams for one reason. They want to win. That's his quote. I call BS on that. They own teams for tax shelters, to be the king like Peter did, and to make money. Peter bought the team because he wanted to win and be a hero 25 years ago, but he learned, especially during the Andy MacPhail era, that there's a lot of money to be made by not giving it to David Segui or giving it to Chris Davis or giving it to Manny Machado, quite frankly. And being me and going back to Lords of the Realm and the whole collusion back in the era of Uberoth was, hey, do you want to make money here, or do you care about winning? You're businessmen, care about making money. Well, they're all making plenty of money 30 years later, man.
Yeah. Well, let's just, I think the thing that was, so irrespective of that, what was said within that, though, or the thing that wasn't said was, it didn't say that to go out and win, you had to have everybody just jump on the free agency bandwagon. And that was the thing that, of course, that's why Tony Clark and the PA is upset and probably, maybe a little bit scared here because you don't have a lot of recourse right now. Those guys, when I say those guys, the players, gave up things that matter now. And what they did in exchange was they said, what would be great? Extra travel. It would be great having personal chefs in the clubhouse. There were a lot of personal amenities things, and that would make sense because Clark's a former player. He would understand that kind of those creature comforts are a nice thing to have. Travel is brutal in baseball due to the number of games. But, it's collective bargaining. Bargaining is the key word there, right? I mean, you go, fine. You want to have your personal chef? How about international?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Look, we're going back. You and I are old guys, right? We go back to Marvin Miller and Andy Messersmith and Curt Flood. And, I had Mike Flanagan bend my ear about the year of collusion when he was coming off a great year and got screwed by the likes of Andy MacPhail and Peter Uberoth and the owners of baseball at that point. But, part of this, what's the average salary right now, Maury? You're the numbers guys.
It's about $4 million.
$4 million. So when you're making $4 million, that's the average salary of your people. You're talking about the difference between Learjets here, and I want to stay at the Four Seasons, not at the Grand Hyatt anymore, right? Like, those are the things you do fight about when you're a rich guy and you're fighting on behalf of rich guys. This wasn't about fighting about rich guys back when it was Marvin Miller. It really was guys who, Brooks Robinson making $40,000 a year or something and having to take another job and knowing that his career was short. Man, one contract in Major League, Jonathan Scope hadn't even gotten paid, and he's gotten paid. He's already a very rich man by any standard. And then at that point, you don't really think about the collective good of everybody or how these really wealthy men are going to screw rich people. You just think like, I want a chef. I want my feet rubbed. I want 2 days off. I want a 6-hour workday and a 4-day work week and, all those other things when you're comfortable. And that's part of being the Players Association is, look, we go back to the 81 strike, you and I, when Lou Whitaker and those guys came in the limousines and it was billionaires fighting with millionaires. It's still not far off on that. I mean, no fan's going to have any sympathy for a guy making $4 million a year who fought for a butler instead of fighting for, like, hey, they're going to blackball me. They're going to Colin Kaepernick me, which is what they've done to 100 players right now.
Well, I'm not going to go there. That I don't think that it's like that. I don't know if they're going, hey, let's all get together and do this sort of thing. I do worry that ultimately that's where the Players Association is sitting right now. So you talk about, nobody's going to feel good about, the amount of money, and of course you want to get your feet rubbed, and all that comes to a head when pitchers and catchers are reporting, and we have to set up a 31st camp for all those players that are sitting on the sidelines.
The Homestead Homies. I'm old enough to remember that too, buddy.
Yeah, and that sort of thing, right? Ultimately a union's job is to create jobs or keep jobs. And so, of course, and these are veterans, right? So they're high-paid guys. And so there's an awful lot of pressure.
Well, the funniest part is every one of these guys is already wealthy. These 100 guys that are out here practicing without jobs right now, all of them have made between $10 and $50 million. Literally. They're not starving. You know what I mean? They're on the back porch of their mansion waiting to get hired. So I don't think anybody's going to feel sorry for them either, right?
Well, yeah, no. Sure. We it's all relative in my mind, right? You sit there and you go, if I'm good at my job and I do something that other people can't, that's why I get paid the money that I do. Now, the real question is whether teams have decided that they can be just as competitive with club-controlled contracts through the first 3 years of a player's career, or even through the salary arbitration years. 6 years. That's the thing. That is the thing that I was very surprised when the labor deal or the collective bargaining agreement finally was made public. I kept looking to see if the players got a higher percentage of those with 2 years of service time that could enter into salary arbitration. They're called Super Twos. So 22% by service time, right? If you and I are both players, right, and we've had 2 years, one of us is going to be 2 years and 125 days, and the other one's going to be 2 years and 300 days. Whoever has the 300 days is going to be in a higher percentage, and those players are able to enter into salary arbitration early, which of course means higher salaries. The players' union didn't do anything about that. So we've all been sitting there for a long time going, you know what? Is there better value in your younger players? And the league has, of course, been touting all this new young talent. Chris Bryant. We can go on and on about all these new players, but they didn't get a wedge. They didn't figure out a way to get more of the young players to make more money. Well, because the guys that are the veterans are the ones that count. They're the ones that have the most pull. They have the most money. And that's the same in any league. I don't care if it's the NFL, NBA, NHL. It does not matter. The guys that are the veterans that have pulled in the major money and have the largest amount of service time have the largest voice. Well, but ultimately, at the end of the day, Nestor, everybody got screwed. The young players aren't making any more money. The veterans are sitting on the sidelines. But I do wonder, right? I'm not going to sit there and pull the collusion trigger until we're sitting here a year from now and having the same conversation. If we're having the same conversation, there's something seriously wrong, because next year's a bumper crop. And if look, there's Harper, Kershaw. Now, Kershaw, I think, is going to get extended. But Machado's out there if they don't do something at the trade deadline, right? That's where I think you're going to have to start asking serious questions about what is going on here, because then there really is a case of we don't really care about winning. We're bringing in about 73 million people through the gates. Television ratings at the local level are high. We had our highest national ratings in a long time. Things are good. Why should we dump more money out? And I think the large thing will be, I think attendance is going to be way down, because I just think that it's just everybody wants that hope. Hope springs eternal. Everybody at the beginning of the season thinks they got a decent shot of doing something. But if your team does nothing in the off season, then you're sitting there going, wow, what do I have to be excited about? There's no excitement in April or May or June or maybe all the way past the All-Star break. So I don't like the environment that things are in, but at the same time, I don't think spending money to spend money is a wise decision either.
He is BizBall Maury out on Twitter as well as at Forbes. He's one of our defending champions, one of our favorite people to discuss, or dare I say, argue baseball with. He is Maury Brown. You can follow his journey out at Forbes as well as at Twitter, and his rock and roll band, Shoot the Thrill, which does delicious AC/DC cover music. Anything you would ask Rob Halford if you had him on your program, Maury? I'm going to have him on next week. And obviously, this whole situation with Glenn Tipton is a bit of a downer as the priest takes to the road next month here.
Yeah, that would be the first thing. I guess the second thing would be, what's his key to longevity and keeping his voice strong? I'm about ready to go see him. This is really surprising, Nestor. They're one of my favorite bands, and I've never seen them live.
Really?
And I've been to thousands of shows. I've I've never seen them. So I'm very excited to see them in April. And I've heard, I know some friends that have hung out with him, and that I guess he has a pretty strong regimen in being able to keep himself healthy and happy and keep his voice strong. And so that would be the thing, because a guy like that doing this for this long at that level, you just don't mail that stuff in. It takes some effort. So that would be the thing I'd want to talk to him about. And hopefully I get that opportunity. I'm going to start trying to contribute to Revolver at some point. I'm going to try and make a pitch to them. So I'm going to go see Zach Wilde and go and do some interviews with them. So we'll kind of be in the same boat, a little bit of stretching here.
Zach called in back on an Aussie tour in the day. He's part of my classic rock heritage around here as well. But I have Judas Priest as I come out of my sports phase into the non-sports thing. And obviously I love talking about the business of sports. Maury Brown joining us here. Of other things, I know you're working on another project that's near and dear to your heart and your next story here after baseball, correct?
After baseball?
Yes. You said you had another story you're working on. You're in the midst of.
Well, so Nestor, there's this real interesting problem that I have, and that is I can't watch the Olympics. Mm-hmm. It's not that I'm not really interested in the human interest stories. I'm certainly interested in, a 17-year-old gold medal winner talking about ice cream on social media while she's in the midst of stuff.
Well, every day there's a cute story because somebody from America inevitably wins, right? We have someone who gets their 15 minutes, whomever they are, right?
Yeah, but my reason for it was several years ago, I got on a phone call with Victor Conte, right, who was the head of Balco, so Barry Bonds, Tim Montgomery, that whole scandal that broke there. And he got his start, of course, in USA Track and Field and talked about the doping that was going on in the 80s. And then I'm reading about the Russians and my problem, and then, of course, it was Ben Johnson, right? And it's really weird because I've come to terms with this in baseball. But when it's a nation-state thing representing countries, and right in America they're supposed to be quote-unquote amateurs, and in other countries they're paid professionals, I can't watch it because my brain I've lost the innocence of it. My brain gravitates.
Well, look at North Korea. They send down professional cheerleaders, like literally, that are the rage of the whole thing. In a humanitarian crisis in that country that they've hidden from everyone else, where they're threatening nuclear war with everyone. So, I mean, when the feel-good story are these girls all dressed up, clapping and singing in North Korea, that it's mind-boggling. And what these governments have, the corruption, that the things even being held in Russia, being held in South Korea, being held wherever. Greece with the baseball fields that are strewn about, and Rio de Janeiro where they leveled neighborhood. I mean, it's greasy, dude. Everything about it is greasy, quite frankly.
Yeah, and that's that's the problem. It's like I'm watching it, but I'm not. I can't bring myself to sit in front of the television. I'm letting me watch curling because it's curling, right? This is a new hip thing, and I can get off on that a little bit, right? But it's difficult. Like I watched about 30 seconds of biathlon, and all I could think about was blood doping. And I mean, it's lost the innocence for me. And like I said, this is really odd as a baseball guy, right? Because clearly we've had doping going on in baseball for some time. There's a story that John Heyman broke, talking about how the Aces agency had not only, known about juicing, but was providing materials for it. And so, but the difference, I sit there and go, hey, it's free enterprise, right? It's a professional sports league. It's individuals. I can handle that. It's this idea that, we're going to wrap ourselves in the flag, and by the way, we're willing to go ahead and do pretty much a bunch of things to cheat to do that for the country. It bothers me is that way. And so there's, I guess, the difference in it. But so that's the column. I mean, it's really difficult because I grew up, like you said, we're older guys, right? I mean, I remember, 68. I remember Jim McKay, and you sit there and watch it on ABC, and it was a big deal. And because there was nothing else on television, that was your sports, and you get to see sports you never saw before. And so I really do sit there now and go, man, I just, the veneer is off of it for me. And it just makes it difficult. Now, maybe I'll come back around someday. Maybe, people are going to call me a hypocrite because of the baseball stuff. But it just, because it's nation state, that is the thing that I think bothers me more than anything. It's this idea that countries are willing to go to these lengths to win for their country and basically cheat. That bugs me.
And the same ones that do that cheat on elections, too, from what I understand, Maury. But that's a whole other topic we can get into a little bit later on. He is BizBall Maury Brown out at Forbes. And anywhere where good baseball coverage is, Maury's always there. Hey, who's going to win more games this year, the Mariners or the Orioles? You want to make a friendly little bet with, I don't know, something Portland ball? I'll send some steamed crabs your way or something. Don't they do that, East Coast, West Coast? But I would
we
say,
could do the East Coast, West Coast. I'm going to say that the Mariners are going to win more games than the Orioles.
You know what?
There's my hot take.
You know what? What would be the over-under on both of them in Las Vegas right now? Baseball odds on over-under for 2018. I want to look this up real quick and try to get some good odds because I don't want to make a bad bet here with you because I'm thinking they're both – okay, hold on here. I got it in front of me. Hold on. I had it in front of me. I lost it. The Dodgers are 5-1. The Indians are 6-1. The Astros are 6-1. The Seattle Mariners are 30-1. The Orioles are 60-1. So you got to give me two times, whatever.
Wow, so I'm going to say that the Mariners are going to win 82 games.
Wow. All right. Detroit Tigers are 300-1. Padres are 80. Reds 80. Phillies 80. Athletics, Royals, Twins, Pirates, Marlins. None of those teams can win. I mean, if you want to know which teams can't win, just go to the Vegas board, right? That'll tell you the truth.
Well, yeah. And the reason that I put that number out there for the Mariners, right, which is, of course, I'm going to tell you right now, I completely overshot that.
Right, of course.
But the reason for it is that I go, it gives me this, like, come on, guys. I can sit in the press box and go, all right, we're here in this baseball, and I'm not supposed to root, and I'm really not supposed to, but let's be honest. After this many years, it'd be kind of nice to see them make the playoffs. They're not giving me a lot of hope. Of course, neither are the Orioles, right? I mean, I believe Baseball Prospectus has the AL East with Pacoda with the Orioles.
Well, as our dear friend Alan McCallum said here earlier in the week, who covered the Orioles for me back in the 90s, he said, hey, man, the Orioles made the playoffs for a day a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
For a day. I love that.
Card, so.
Hey, man, love you, appreciate you. I'll be rocking out with Shoot the Thrill anytime you're out there. I'll be checking out the videos and doing all that. And, of course, following you out on Twitter and Forbes and Facebook and anywhere else guys like us travel. Always great to visit with you, Maury. Great piece out at Forbes. I'm encouraging everybody to go out there and read that, pal.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Get to feeling better.
All right. Stay away from the C word, collusion. He is BizBall Maury on Twitter. He's a great dude and a great rock and roll guitarist. Maury Brown out at Forbes. He covers the business of baseball and did a great piece on collusion that you need to go read. You can find me out on the buy at Toyota.com Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from everywhere in the world. Big thanks to Howard Bank for sponsoring all of our community reports. We'll be doing that beginning in March on Thursday morning, so I'm looking forward to that and the non-sports part of what we do. Give a shout out to our friends at Royal Farms. Make sure you download that app and you're using that for your gas, your chicken. You get some rewards. You get some free fried chicken and Western fries. Nothing better than that for me. You can even use it on some ice cream there or some donuts from Krispy Kreme. All the good stuff they got at Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast. Sponsoring us yet again. We appreciate 2 decades of support from Frank Schilling and Ed Stronsky and our friends over at Royal Farms. ROFO is the way to find them as well. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our YouTube WNSTV channel as well as our Facebook Live. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.